Bat music. Bat is not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome to another week of Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we form a visionary alliance to look at Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And completing your duo of ghastly grotesques, it is I, John Parker.
Today we're joined by yet another guest, returning from last season and returning to the form of movies by minutes after a retirement of sorts. We have Brady Crane.
Can you ever retire from movies by minutes, really, truly?
You know, I don't know, man. And I keep hearing that old music. And I know that last time I was on, I talked about some other ideas for shows, other movies that, I wanted to do. And one that I've really had kind of going back and forth in my head is The Truman Show. I think that movie would actually lend itself really well. It's an interesting movie. And I was asked a few months ago by another Movies by Minutes host if I wanted to go in on it. But we never really got around to doing anything. And I'm not going to say her name. I don't know if she's still wants to do it or not. So I don't think I could devote 6 months of my life to that movie. It's just way too heavy. It'd be a lot to cover. And so I'm going to stay away from that one as well. But I don't know. Always good to come back as a guest. I know. I'm just full of excuses. Maybe it's going to happen.
We miss hearing you all the time, but, I understand. If you can get out, you get out. Go, run.
Yeah.
But today we're here to talk about minute 88 of Batman Returns, which begins with the Max Schreck sort of reassuring the Penguin in some manner, and it ends 1 minute later with Bruce and Alfred having an old chinwag in the Wayne Library.
Alfred becomes something of a mechanic, ready to spring into action.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to it. It's like, does he though?
He thinks.
Don't skip ahead, John.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But I do enjoy here though that because we have Max is talking about just trying to calm the Penguin's nerves here about having to go out in front of this crowd after he just didn't kill Batman. What happened? But he's talking about we'll celebrate tonight at my annual MAXquerade ball, which I do love that every draft of the script has MAXquerade ball, as if that was a pun that they were we're keeping that. You can chuck whatever else, but you keep that pun.
Yeah. Can I just point out as well? Maybe I'm stupid. I did not know he said MAXquerade ball until researching for this episode. I never heard it. I thought he just said masquerade.
Yeah, I love little things like that because big things like that and little things like that just really go to show this guy's ego. Mm-hmm. And it's important to just continually remind the audience that this guy is as big-headed as he is. I actually think the character of Max Schreck's maybe my favorite thing about this movie.
Oh.
And that and that Super Freak made its way into this movie, the song. So those two things.
Yeah, it's coming up around the corner, the Super Freak rendition.
Shrek.
That's right.
Shrek is he's kind of... Everyone remembers that Walken is in this movie, but very few people actually remember the character he's playing. I think he's unloved.
So I really like bringing in a character that didn't exist previously in Batman lore, and it's. I think you guys have already mentioned this. It would have been so easy to use somebody like Rupert Thorne or something like that audiences were already familiar with, but to go with someone we don't know really kind of ups the stakes, and we don't know what's going to happen or what his plan might be. Clearly, it's not that difficult to put it together, but I don't know. Yeah, to not really know what his intentions are, or to have to figure them out as he's putting them together, I think really helps in terms of what your villain's going to be.
Yeah.
So, and it would also be easy for to kind of overcrowd this movie with villains. You already have 3, depending on if you want to call Catwoman a straight up villain or not. But it works. It still works to have 3 protagonists in your movie.
It baffles me how they get away with it, because any other movie I see with that many villains, 9 times out of 10. That's the main problem with said movie.
Yeah.
You don't need that many villains usually.
This was the first time I'd ever seen that. Was let's say, 2 villains in your movie, and then after that, it was almost obligatory. I mean, next up, you had Two-Face and Riddler. After that, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and then even into the current Batman movies, you're still seeing that.
Yeah.
So I don't. Yeah, it's a strange.
I think that was like my mentality when I was a kid. Like I think I remember I mentioned it earlier about like Terminator 2. When I thought like, so in Terminator 3, there's gonna have to be 3 Terminators because. But I always kind of felt was like, Batman Forever, they're gonna have 3 villains because this is the second movie, so you've had 2 villains. Then the third one, you'll have to have 3 villains. But though I didn't see as a kid, because to me, MAXquerade was just some guy. Now I realize, like, there are 3 villains already. He is arguably the biggest villain of all of them.
Yeah.
He's just not like a freaky weird. Well, he's not that freaky a weirdo that he's good enough to put on posters and stuff. But
you say that, but he's not the best at repeating sayings, is he? Because at the start here, I have a problem with a phrase he comes out with. Because he says, "If it works, don't fix it." That's not the phrase, dude. Like, it's,
not at all.
If it isn't broken, don't fix it.
So maybe he was trying
thing.
to go for like the way like last movie Jack Nicholson or Jack Napier just seemed to be making up random phrases and stuff. Like maybe Chris Wong's like, I'll make up phrases too.
Yeah.
I was like, Chris, that already is a phrase. No, it's not. That's not a phrase.
I think so, because he's trying to convince, as you said, COBBLEPOT, that everything's fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. There's no problem with leaving Batman alive. It's okay. Their scheme is still on track.
Yeah.
If it works, don't fix it. Apparently.
It's like with you remember a couple of years back, Gary Busey kept coming out with Buseyisms, like these phrases that he claimed he made up. And I remember one of them was like, the term team means together everyone achieves more. And I was like, that's been a phrase for decades, Gary.
That's like an
But
80s
he's like, no, that's a
buzzword,
Buseyism. Like I made that up. Like
That was all me.
I'm pretty sure you didn't. That'd be like MAXquerade will be like, it's one of my patented slogans. Like if it works, don't fix it.
He was ripped off. They changed it so they didn't have to pay him.
Yeah. You mentioned the thing about the Joker. It's with Batman Forever. I mean, it's pretty clear that Tommy Lee Jones is just trying to recreate everything Jack Nicholson was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And this is just coming off of the original Batman. So I'm surprised that you didn't see everybody just trying to recreate everything Nicholson did.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess these characters have so much color to them already. You don't have to do that. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I agree. In lesser hands, I think that is what they would do because it's easy.
Yeah.
But Burton was like, I'm going to make this my movie.
I think also as well, like, no offense to Tommy Lee Jones, but like, I think because he just did it to please his kids. So I think he's probably just a bit lazy, and he's like, I didn't do any research into what Two-Face is supposed to be like. I just did it. I watched that one movie that my buddy Jack Nicholson did, and I'll just do what he did.
Yeah.
Whereas, like,
I'm looking forward
Danny D might have approached it with a bit more of a, I want to make this my own unique character and stuff.
Right.
Because he wanted to play the part, for one thing. Like, I think of all the people who worked on the movie, he's one of the few who comes off with this real, like, I had a great time. I would love to do it again. Whereas everyone else has this real attitude of like, oh yeah, it was a rough time making that movie.
Yeah. When do you guys think you're gonna start? I know it's way too soon to tell, but start up with Batman Forever, which I'm assuming you're gonna call it that. I have no idea.
Oh yeah. You're onto our system here.
Oh boy.
I imagine this one will probably finish airing around June, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then, so like, I think last time we took about 4 months off. So then, I guess we're around like October, maybe we'll start airing. I don't know. If it follows the same pattern, it'll be around that. But then we'll see what happens.
Unless someone
donates
us $300, and then we'll just launch right into it if you want.
Like right after this minute, just like straight at the
right.
Just leave out the end of this movie, straight into the next.
Or do them concurrently.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So then we get the Shrek ushers the Penguin out to the crowds here, and we get seeing the bustling mini hordes of Gotham Plaza once again. I haven't been there in a while, so let's go and see. Also note that because we got Shrek and the Penguin themselves are obviously approaching the podium. But you just have these randomers as well. There's like these 2 burly men who I guess are security, and then 2 random women. I have no idea who they're supposed to be.
You can see like earpieces, wires or whatever, like going into the guy's ears. But the two women who are there, are they just kind of like hype women who are just supposed to stand there and get everybody to react, or what? Because they're not really doing anything. In fact, I think Max is the only person who's like waving his hands around, like, "Yeah, come on, cheer, everybody." Yeah. So nobody really seems to care. The people who are in his employment,
it's odd,
for the campaign.
They're not obviously. I mean, look at them. They're not security, so I don't really know what.
Yeah,
are they? I mean, you haven't seen them working on the campaign.
Yeah, it would have been a good opportunity. I think we mentioned it when Jen and Josh featured.
Yeah.
But this should have been them. Because obviously those characters featured much more in the original draft as Punch and Judy and whatnot. And they're like a forever haunting presence over the Penguin's shoulder, have constantly been his PR people. And like, I think I said back in the episode where Josh was bitten on the nose, like it would have been great if you saw him throughout the rest of the movie and he was like just had random chunks taken out of him and he was constantly forever, every time you saw him he just looked more and more haggard and injured from working with Oswald. But so this would have been a prime opportunity if you saw him here like with crutches and stuff and he's just like, "Hey everyone, COBBLEPOT!" Hey.
Progressively throughout the movie he's got one less body part or something like that. Just, poor guy.
I would love that.
There could have also been like a good little thing of because you could potentially say like, well, maybe the market research has indicated that the voters like married men or something like that. So maybe like they've actually had to hire a woman to pretend she's with Oswald COBBLEPOT. That could have been an interesting subplot of like, this woman has to just pretend to be with this hideous malformed pervert and stuff.
Now, that actually would have been really good because. I mean, obviously it's somewhat the same here, but even more so it seems in American politics. They're big on the family approach. Yeah. So maybe, portray him. He's a family guy. He's got a wife. They're thinking of starting a family.
Yeah.
This would have been a pretty complex movie if they started going into like, what the voters or the people who were on the campaign's lifestyles were like, and what it was going to take to do your job the right way.
There is a kind of weird part of me that really wants to just have a movie dedicated to this political campaign to get into all the dirt of it.
That would be fantastic. Great. I want to see it from beginning to end. I want it going on months and months in time, in the movie time. Oh, that'd be great.
Here's one thing though, and maybe you guys can, like, maybe you've more razor sight than I do, but in the IMDb trivia, like, you got a big close up of the crowd here. And there's a claim in that trivia that Danny Elfman is one of the people in that crowd.
Really?
And I know what Danny Elfman looks like because I've seen enough Oingo Boingo videos to be like, I recognize him a mile away. And when I was watching this minute on my phone, like when I was initially doing the read-through before I looked at it properly on a proper screen so I could get into the details, there's a guy down the front, in the front center, who I thought was Danny Elfman. And now looking at him, he clearly is not. So
I think I know which one you mean, and it's not him, no. I can't see him, but he could just be like behind a sign or something.
Do you think he'd want to be more prominent though? Unless he was just like, people will know Danny Elfman from Boingo Boingo. Like, I'll stick out like a sore thumb.
Yes, everyone knows what he looks like, not just us weirdos.
He's kind of a peculiar looking guy too. So you think, he would stand out, but I don't know, couldn't spot him.
That was weird, actually. The other day I was watching some kind of thing IMDb is doing. There was a random video on my Facebook feed, and it was an interview with Kristen Schaal from, the Friday the Conchords and Gravity Falls and stuff. And she was talking about, like, when I was a student, I wanted to make this art movie. And she was just describing what it was, and they made the movie for her, of this really pretentious art movie and stuff. But it was just weirded out at the end, because she's like, I got, like, a really good person in to do the score, like... Howard Shore or Danny, what do you call him? That guy, Danny Oingo Boingo. What's his name? Danny Oingo Boingo. I was like, you can't remember. Danny Elfman must be more famous now as a composer for about 30 years. But she doesn't really know who he is, but she refers to him as Danny Oingo Boingo. That was weird.
Daniel Boingo. Everyone knows that's his name.
Is Oingo Boingo still around? Do they still record?
No, I think they retired in 94, because you can get the farewell concert on YouTube.
Wow. Okay, I'm way behind.
Yeah, I think it was around the time of, like, Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff. I think he packed it in. I know in more recent shows, I think he's gotten members out to play, Danny Elfman's done this tour of him, not him playing the music of Tim Burton, but an orchestra plays his music.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
And because I remember when we had Chrysanthi Tan on last year, because I was saying like, oh, I've seen him do that. Like I was there for one of those concerts, and she was like, yeah, I saw that too at the Hollywood Bowl. And then they got out the guys from Oingo Boingo, and they played Dead Man's Party. I was like, oh, yeah, all right. So your concert was better than mine, Chrysanthi, okay?
Yeah, screw the English. Nobody cares about doing a good show here.
Yeah, and I remember in the build-up to that show, I was going with a friend of me and John's, Jimmy, who was a major Oingo Boingo fan. And he's like, oh, do you think maybe he'll play some Oingo Boingo songs? I was like, not a chance. Danny Elfman will never play an Oingo Boingo song again. And then, like, a year later, that happened. I was like, oh, apparently he just doesn't care enough to do it in England.
Danny!
Whatever.
Not cool, man.
Oh, actually, I was going to bring up as well, before they even headed... That doesn't sound right coming from an English person, headed. That's a very American phrase, isn't it? Before they headed out there, the penguin was doing his weird, usual uncomfortable grunting. As, you know, Max was trying to convince him, no, it's fine, you know, let's just go out there, it'd be great. Now, I like this, though, because this is going to sound strange. It's different to his other grunting. He's got an aroused grunt. This is his awkward grunt.
Aroused grunt.
He does this specific kind of, it's kind of fidgety. It's like agitated. He's like, and I love it. Every time he's a bit awkward, a bit uncomfortable, that comes out. And I fall in love with it.
Yeah. That's, you know, this is like one of the best performances I think I've ever seen in a movie. And not just because he's so hidden underneath all this makeup, but he's such a force to be reckoned with. In this movie, and you feel every time he's just so I don't know, you just really feel his emotion anytime he's like giving some big rousing speech to freaking penguins or to people here. It just really comes through. Danny DeVito is really able to project through it. I also saw, like, when you're watching it on TV, Alfred and Bruce are watching it on TV, you can't even see his face above the microphones at the podium. Like, he's still so short. He's like underneath them. But no, I know what you mean with his grunting, like, changes depending on the mood of whatever situation he's in. I don't know what to call it. But yeah, he's so good in this movie.
I like that because that is how animals act. Obviously, it's a bit different. You know, of course, I've brought her up many times. My cat, Drusilla. She has different cries, different meows and sounds for different things. Like, I've learnt some of them now. When she does a specific meow, I know, oh, she's going to get some food. Because she tells me, like, I'm going to go and get some food now. Or she does a different meow for I'm going upstairs to be alone.
Do you guys happen to know if this particular set was on a soundstage or actually out in the open?
I believe all of it was on a soundstage, like the whole
soundstage,
movie, because they had a whole kind of, I think it was one of the last movies they ever did in that, what they call like the old-fashioned way of having everything.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my... that was the thing I was going to say, is that because, like, you know, we do get the shot of Selena Kyle, like, separated from the crowd. And actually I had a note that, like, apparently because they used to have to relocate the set quite a bit just from, like, shuffling around the studio. So apparently she used to get lost going to set, like, all the time. So it was great that they actually had, like, originally Selena was supposed to be in the crowd, and then Michelle Pfeiffer just showed up, like, one day. He's like, all right, I guess I'm just hanging back here then.
Well, I think it's the first shot of the minute where Penguin's talking to Max kind of behind the scenes or whatever, and you can actually see pretty far into the set, like the city blocks that are a little bit further away, and you can even see like the background extras moving around. So I'm like, damn, that's a pretty big set. If it's going back that far, I mean, I guess that makes sense. If you're going to have city streets and things, you would just sort of build some that you could reset or redress and make it look like it's more places throughout the movie. But
I know the real brag about when the scene of Batman and Catwoman when they're first fighting, and she's kind of backing off to the ledge and whatnot, and then he falls off and he throws that acid or whatever at her. I know in one of the featurettes, like, they're talking about, like, yeah, we had to build that set is insanely huge of all those rooftops we had to build concurrently and stuff. So yeah, they're kind of very proud of the size of the whole thing. They're like, oh yeah, this is huge. We got the thing we had to make. I think probably it was very much in the vein of like when Fritz Lang was making Metropolis, and he just made these massive, gigantic sets. I imagine probably in Tim Burton's mind of like, I'm doing that. I'd love to have huge sets for random stuff.
Not only would he want to do that, but he's inspired by Metropolis in 1,000 ways in this film. I think the whole visual look of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's correct me if I'm wrong. I think Bo Welch was the production designer.
Yep.
On this movie. Yeah, and picking up from where Anton first left off is no small feat. I mean, that's such an original look that film had. Unfortunately, we lost him, but he does such a good job of like. Sorry for the sirens going by in the background. I don't know if you guys are hearing that or not. Yeah, but he did such a good job coming in and just sort of like kind of recreating some of that, adding his own thing. And one of those things is the statues everywhere, the big statues. And that's something that you just started to see more and more throughout the series. This particular, the first 4 movies or whatever. And they got just progressively more outlandish as it went. And I think by the time of Batman and Robin, it's just massive statues that are people that are just bigger than like the actual skyscrapers.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's been Batman and Robin. They're having like a car chase along the arm of a giant
Something
statue
like
and stuff.
that. Yeah, ridiculous.
I love it though, because that is such an iconic look. I think of this series, especially this movie. This is the one I think of, even though it hasn't got the biggest statues, it hasn't got the most statues. I think of this film when I think of the statues of Gotham.
Yeah, it's not too over the top. It's really fits the look of the whole thing, and I don't know, I like it.
But
pretty cool.
I should also say though, like, because we get the crowd. One thing that slightly disappointed me about them is that you get a whole range of them holding these signs, but it seems like they've only got 3 signs, and they just have the same things repeated over. You could say that that's to indicate that they showed up with nothing, and then Shrek gave them signs.
That's what I think. I've been to political rallies, and people just randomly give you signs.
No, I was just going to say, because that would have been an opportunity for them to get really creative. Like, oh yeah, just throw in loads of weird signs and stuff. But like, no, they just sort of went with the 3 is that COBBLEPOT can clean it up, which I guess is supposed to be kind of rhyming. The COBBLEPOT can clean it up. It's like an up pot. And...
if that is the case, they could have done a better job.
And also, what gives people the impression that he can? What proof has he given that he can do that?
Well, I know that at like real campaign rallies and things like that, they actually give you signs sometimes. So you're probably right. I went to a political campaign when I was a little kid, and I just remember like all of these people had signs that they made, and going in, you had officials, I don't know, guard, whatever they were, taking the signs from people like, nope, can't take this, but you can take this. And it was stuff as generic as COBBLEPOT can clean it up, So there may be some truth to that.
If you had to make your own sign for Oswald COBBLEPOT, do you think, what kind of slogan do you think you'd go for?
I don't know. Maybe
you don't just know this off the top of your head, Brady? Come on.
Yeah, I know, right? This is the kind of stuff I think about all the time. I'll get back to you on that.
That's
I'm gonna go
impossible
think on it.
because how do you sell this man to the general public? Let's be honest.
I was trying to think of some myself, and I could only come up with 2, and one of them doesn't work at all. But like, because you had the infamous Obama, like, oh yes we can, was going to go with Oswald we can.
Oh, okay.
No, and then the other one was Gotham's gone to pot. Now give it to COBBLEPOT, which is a bit wordy, I think. But...
Maybe just make Gotham great again.
Oh, you've ruined one of my
Something
notes.
Something as obnoxious as that.
I bring that up.
I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. That's what's called a tease, everyone. That's a lead.
I did do some research then to see, like, I wonder if you can get like really one of the best like political rally signs that are out there. And from looking it up in Google, surprised it just gives you a lot of protest ones. So they're kind of not quite as relevant, but they're like, I'll mention a few of them because some of them are good. But shockingly enough, about 98% of these protest signs feature Donald Trump in some way. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. It's as if it's a very current issue in some way. But
it's as if it's a difficult person for us to discuss. I think people understand our view.
But I've seen other people just put like generic sort of generic signs that have been shown at political rallies. So like one of them you had was banned Candy Crush invites. I was like, I get that. I've been there. Okay. Alt-right delete. I thought
Oh,
was pretty...
that's good. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
So bad introverts are here. I'm like, okay. One that was a little more deliberately aimed was Cheetos are for breakfast, not for president. I was like, I wonder who they're talking about there.
Who knows?
And then there's one that had Walter White on it that said, learn from Walt, pay teachers more. But to me, I was kind of like, yeah, but then that's a lot about your American health system as well, really, isn't it? That you're
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, by all means, pay teachers more. But I think you're touching upon bigger issues there. But who am I as a person not living in America to come in and critique anything?
Whatever they would be coming up with, I just hope they would have a little bit more pizzazz than the signs that they're using here in the movie, because it's just like black letters over a white background. It's no like, really over the top cheesy designs or I don't know, caricatures or something like that. It's just, COBBLEPOT can clean it up, and that's it. So
what would we have appreciated if they just had the picture of him on it or something, like, or just had something symbolic. But it just feels like, again, maybe because this wasn't Tim Burton's interest. He was just interested in everything else in the movie. So he's like, I don't care about the signs. Just go and do it.
Well, the official, poster that they have behind him is actually, I think, a really cool piece of design and such a cool image. And you think they would go with something like that, but no.
Well, I do enjoy here Oswald. He waddles up to the podium in his amazing top hat. And, if I would vote for this guy solely because of the hat. I don't even need a cool slogan. I don't need convincing. Look at that hat.
It's pretty impressive.
Anyone who can pull that off and has the confidence to wear that, I'm on board with them.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing I would have liked that they had done. I know, Brady, you mentioned earlier about the fact that, the microphones they're too tall for him, so you can't really get to them properly.
You can see the hat, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the hat.
But
yeah.
I would have liked it is if they had throughout, maybe early on you saw COBBLEPOT give a speech like this, and the microphones were like that. But as his campaign goes on and he grows more and more popular, and grows more and more in stature and in power, they've actually made a podium for him where he's actually looming over the microphones and into the crowd and stuff. And I thought that would have been a powerful image of seeing this is how much he's grown, so it makes him more important. Because then we see him now, just before. This is supposed to be building him up before we knock him down pretty much permanently. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, it would have been a good visual to have him look at this is him at the height of his powers before they pull the rug out from him. And but they said they gotta go with this the comical appearance of it, which I feel kind of slightly diminishes it a little bit, but doesn't ruin it for me, I think. But
that's a good point, because it's little things like that kind of give you. You don't even notice that it's happening, but as time goes by, little things like, him being over the podium, him finally growing, if you will, I guess, really help, I think. It really helps kind of drive the point home without being too direct about it. So, it would have been
could have had a nice mirroring shot of when we saw Harvey Dent at the start of the first movie. They had him in that kind of Citizen Kane angle. They could have done a repeat shot of that, but remember that we had one politician in the first movie who we know was going to turn out to be a villain. There we have another one who already is a villain, but now he's becoming a politician.
Well, there's a bit here in the Wesley Strick draft, which is absolutely hilarious. It would be awful if it was in the movie. Don't get me wrong, I do not want it in the film, but I was dying because it goes thus. Down in front, a shameless, toothsome COBBLEPOT groupie flashes major cleavage, as though Penguin were a pop star. This heartens Penguin. He quickly rises to the occasion. That's cheap.
That's a very much like if Frank Reynolds was running for political office. That would be in an episode of It's Always Sunny, and it would just be like, oh man.
And the choice of words, he rises to the occasion.
Wow. Now, that would have been something. Frank Reynolds playing the Penguin. I think I could have gotten down with that.
Hell yeah. They're very similar characters, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think as some people refer to this movie is Batman Returns, Frank Reynolds Rising or something. This is the beginning of that character.
This is where he gets his money. He takes the COBBLEPOT fortune.
There you go. So I know that you guys have mentioned before, Max rarely has his arms in his overcoat. It's normally just kind of draped over his shoulders. And I haven't really been looking for it, but I'm noticing here that this is the first time that I've seen anyway that his arms are finally in the sleeves of that overcoat. It's a big moment.
It took a team of people to get him in them. But
Exactly.
Maybe it's just like, oh no, it's really cold out now. It would be great though if he had the overcoat and then he had another overcoat draped over his shoulders now.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, that Lando Calrissian guy, he just looked way too suave. So everyone should be doing this.
I also have a problem with his speech, because he starts it here, and he says, when it came time to ensure the safety of our fair city, did the mayor have a plan? Like, do you? What's your plan? Clean it up. That's vague. Make Gotham great again, as you said before. Like, what the hell?
Because this is all coming off as well, the fact that he was like, oh yeah, because what he goes into now is the whole like, oh no, he relied on a man. A Batman.
Yeah.
And the last time we saw the Penguin speaking to the public was him going, and I hope and pray that Batman will be there to preserve the peace. So it's like, you were, as far as the public knows, you were hoping Batman was going to do everything.
But he's
for you
had
as well.
enough of him.
Exactly.
But should have mentioned though, because we do have the bustling crowds, and so popular is Oswald Cobblepot that even at the front, the Gotham's patented pillars of steam have shown up to support him and everything.
Yes.
Just 2 pillars of steam just right there in the front row.
The number one citizens
Just
of Gotham.
rising up.
Yeah, but then of course we get in the back, we got a shot of Selena Kyle sort of glaring, doing a very, what you call like the Kubrick glare, pretty much, just staring down. I do actually love here, because this is actually, it's quite subtly done, I think. Because it's like she is staring not at the Penguin, because it cuts then to MAXquerade. So it's just more like, I think what's happened here now, to me, from what I can see, is that, well, you see, well, for one thing, right behind her there, it got framed just slightly out of focus as a no U-turn sign. I think that's what it is. Anyway, I don't drive, so I'm assuming that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, no, that's it.
But saying no U-turn, and then the last time we saw Selena's like, yeah, that's when the Penguin like attached her to that umbrella, and then she fell through the greenhouse, and then she shattered, like she screamed, shattered that. You could say that was the last of her sanity, but was the shattering of that glass. And now, like, where we had hints before that Selena might have been redeemed with her relationship with Bruce Wayne, now she's standing in front of this no U-turn sign. This could be her saying, there is no going back. And she's staring at the original focus of her rage, was MAXquerade. And of course, the next time we see Selena will be when she infiltrates the MAXquerade ball with a gun to publicly execute MAXquerade. So it seems now this is from the look of like sort of demented hatred on her face, this is a completely broken version of the character.
That's a really, really cool observation. I've never seen it that way. That really changes this for me.
Yeah.
Huh.
I hadn't
Really
thought
cool.
of that. I'm jealous. God damn you, Niall.
I already thought of that, Niall, so you can get out.
Yeah, I can confirm. Brady brought it up first. Off air.
It was off mic.
Just the week before this episode airs, Brady's going to come out with his own Batman Returns podcast. Like, hey guys, here's some observations I had.
I got in there the day before.
Good Lord. Yeah.
The Selena here, though, I love this look. She's brooding. She's smouldering. She looks.
She's hot.
I'm going to be honest. She looks smoking. I'd say she looks good.
Oh, yeah.
We'll also note as well that the Christmas tree is lit. Like, the last time we saw the Christmas tree is like, oh yeah, the Ice Princess just died there last night. And then all those bats flew out of the thing. But they were just like, you know what? Forget it. We're just the tree's lit, and that's it. They're not even keeping the chalk outline of her body there for more than 2 hours. Like, no, everything's open for business. Forget
Imagine
it.
that next to the Christmas tree. You take your kids to see the Christmas tree for some, seasonal spirit, and there's just a chalk outline of a body.
Yeah. Just go drag the girl out of there, but whatever you do, don't screw with the Christmas lights. We need to make sure those are still on for the campaign tomorrow.
I get the feeling
Priorities.
that would actually happen, especially here. It'd be like, oh, no.
In this city,
keep
yeah.
everyone happy at Christmas. It's fine.
I know though from around Liverpool, like there's a pub that was still shut down from like someone getting shot outside it, and then I think afterwards and around the same area, they had a second-hand shop that got shut down because someone got shot outside.
Oh, yeah, that was next to my old
Good Lord.
place.
Yeah.
I was like 2 streets down.
But you said that's your old place, right? You're not still in that area.
Well, John did a runner
thank
obviously
God.
after that because he was. But yeah, that was the kind of thing. The indication was like, oh yeah, something horrible has happened here. So like, no one's ever want to go in this place again. So we have to shut down. So that in itself seems mixed up to me, because like I'm more of a maybe more mercenary in my like, no, we just clean it up and then get on with things. But I do think though that maybe like out of respect for the person who just died, they were like, maybe we don't hold the political rally like 6 feet away from where she fell down dead.
Right. There was a black body bag being carried to an ambulance less than 24 hours ago. Maybe we could just move this somewhere else, because there's probably going to be some people who are here for both events, and that's not cool.
I've just been given the options of like, well, where else do we have it? Like the Monarch Theater, the Flugelheim Museum.
Oh.
Like,
yeah,
it's like that's the only other places in Gotham we got. So you can hold in that street where the Joker did that parade, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We're kind of limited.
But,
what are your? I know that you said there was some. I can't remember offhand who they were, but some other options for MAXquerade, like who was going to be cast as it. What are your thoughts on Christopher Walken?
Oh, I think he's perfect. I think the only other person I can remember been brought up for it was David Bowie, who would have been interesting. But I think actually, no disrespect to Bowie as an actor, but like I think they think they lucked out by getting Walken, really.
Yeah,
I don't know about lucked out.
He's
I mean,
great.
Walken's one of my favorite actors, so I mean, obviously, I want him. Bowie's one of my favorite musicians, but okay. But I think if there's one director who he could work with really well, even though he's not the best actor in the world, he would really have suited a Tim Burton picture really well. It could have worked.
That's a good point.
But I don't want to get rid of Walken.
Very much.
Is there anyone you would have had up yourself, Brady? Like, is anyone who you would rather have seen as MAXquerade?
No, I think Christopher Walken's perfect. I mean, he's such a good blend of, like, he's scary, he's ruthless, he's all these things. He's also funny. There's a certain quirkiness from him not doing anything, just looking. But he's also, I can sort of like trust him a little bit. I can see, like, if I didn't know about all of his, conniving, all the things he's got going on behind the scenes, I think you could almost see him and just see him as kind of a legit, sort of a legit person. So I think that kind of adds to, the unpredictability of it all. Just who is this guy? What is he up to? And then as the movie goes on, you find out just how horrible of a person he really is. So yeah, I think Christopher Walken's probably the only person I can think of who could have done that. So yeah, I'm all on board with Christopher Walken.
I guess they could have gone like completely the opposite direction. Have someone you like a Robert Redford or something, where you're just like, oh, he seems so benevolent and homely, and then like much like they did in Winter Soldier, where it turns like, hey, well, Robert Redford was the friggin' bad guy the whole time.
Yeah,
but
true.
But then of course we cut to Wayne Manor, where we have Alfred Pennyworth completely changing his tune on the Penguin here now. After all, it's like, oh, well, you just leave him alone, Master Bruce. And I was like, our first port of call is this ghastly grotesque. Which again, it's like, hey, he's a villain, Alfred. Don't need to body shame him. But it's like, he's making fun of the way he looks instead of just like, well, the fact that he's a criminal asshole.
He's got flippers for hands, man. Leave him alone. Come on.
I think Alfred just listened to our first season, and he was mostly... He was so shocked to find out that gargoyles and grotesques are different things. And most people, of course, say gargoyle when they mean grotesque. So he's just using this new information. He clearly just was fascinated with my facts.
It's good. Alfred's still trying to pick up like a little... Like after we found out earlier this season that he was mispronouncing Vichyssoise the whole time. Like, did you know, Master Bruce, that a grotesque is actually what you think a gargoyle is?
Also, I love the way we cut to them. And yet again, they are watching the TV. Yeah. That is literally all these two do in this whole movie. They just sit and watch the TV.
Together.
Thank God the villains in this series make lots of televised appearances, because they'd never find them.
Yeah.
It's like his entire crime wave's happening. The Batman's not doing anything about it because no one's putting it on TV.
I tell you what, Bruce Wayne's a pretty slick dresser here. He's got all of his buttons, even up to the very top buttoned. And
it's a high-waisted trouser there as well, actually.
I'm a fan of the high-waisted trousers. I think they're nicer if they're designed that way. Of course, don't just yank your pants up and garrote yourself. But they're a nice fit, a nice feel.
Yeah, he's got the this of course was the age of tucking everything in. So of course he's got,
even when you shouldn't.
Yeah, so like this back in the days, like, oh yeah, you see like Home Improvement, so like Tim Allen going around with a jumper tucked into jeans the whole time. And stuff.
Yeah,
Of course
why would you ever tuck a sweater into anything? Don't do it.
Well, of course we were just saying that. Of course, who friggin' did that last movie was Bruce Wayne in the Batcave with his polo neck tucked into his jeans.
Oh God, yeah, with his like what do they call those, stonewashed jeans or acid washed jeans or something?
I think we got like a good couple of weeks out of just talking about that outfit last year. So.
Just about jeans.
You know, he's cut his like semi mullet for this movie. His hair is much shorter in the back, and that's something that I always look at in the first one. Is just like, oh man. Come on.
Yeah, it definitely is a nicer cut in this.
Those are the kinds of things I notice.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is a bit more, even though it does look a bit 90s, it's a bit more of a kind of timeless look, because it's kind of like, I can still imagine a rich guy looking like this today. In that first movie, is like, no, whatever, dress like that at all. Like, unless you're Steve Jobs.
No.
Of course, there's only one Steve Jobs, and he's passed. So, like, that's the end of that.
Yeah, there's only one person who could pull off a tucked-in turtleneck with high-waisted jeans and big, bright tennis shoes. So
Somehow he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's bizarre.
Oh, he did.
But then we do begin to enter into some very odd dialogue, though, because it's kind of like, our first port of call is this ghastly grotesque. But let's not forget about repairing the Batmobile. It's kind of like, what? Who are you saying this for, Alfred? Like,
It's
For
jumping
us,
topics.
the viewer.
Yeah, it's those two totally unrelated topics. Like he's like talking about the Penguin, and then by the way, we're gonna move into this totally different subject right mid sentence.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
It's also got that thing, though, of this seems like it's his dialogue setting up something, though. Like, let's not forget about repairing the Batmobile. And of course, we know, like, in the original script, it was supposed to be, they had the kid, the Marlon Wayans Robin character, who was a mechanic.
Yeah.
And it was almost like, if we still had that there, this would be a setup for, maybe we should take it to that one fellow, sir. But this is just like, oh yeah, we have to think about fixing the Batmobile. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
you know,
not really.
I don't know if you guys have mentioned it so far. I think it was Darren Aronofsky had an idea for a Batman movie, and I mean, there was some big departures in it. And if I remember correctly, Alfred was a mechanic in it, and Bruce was like in training as a mechanic.
yeah.
Or something. It was wildly different. It sounded interesting.
I think,
but
there was
that might.
I think the Batmobile was supposed to be like an old Cadillac and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, who knows? Might have worked.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, I think at that point, like, I would have poo-pooed it because I was just like, that would have been the first one after Batman and Robin. And I was like, I just want to see a proper Batman movie. But now that we've seen so many, like, after the Nolan trilogy,
I can
and
see
stuff,
that happening.
I think now they came out, like,
Yeah.
we're doing this weird new Batman. I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm on board for that now. You can just go and do whatever you want. But
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe this Matt Reeves thing will kind of take that big of a departure, you know?
yeah.
But yeah, I think now's the time that you could see something like that happening and be, okay, cool. We've gotten our, I guess sort of like reboot of Batman as, like you said, a proper Batman movie. So now let's go crazy and see what other ideas people have. So maybe.
Well, oh God, hang on, I've knocked my microphone over. Right. The strict revised draft has another thing here, which is interesting to me, because the dialogue is actually the opposite sentiment to what we get in the finished movie.
It's like Alfred, I love this Oswald Cobblepot.
Well, okay, maybe not opposite, not quite. But he says that he's less concerned about the ghastly grotesque, and he's more concerned about repairing the car. Like, so here he's saying, number one priority is the Penguin, but we need to fix the car. In the original write-up, it's the other way. It's like, the Penguin doesn't really matter because we've got to fix this car.
Yeah. I think I can kind of get the reason for a switch, though, because that's really taking the wind out of the tension that's supposed to be here about the Penguin being this big threat. And if Alfred's just like, oh, yeah, well, him. We need to fix that car.
Right. We have bigger things to worry about. It's like you can't really get on top of that problem until you've taken care of this other problem.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And even like Michael Goff's delivery here, like kind of pointing the finger, and it's like the first priority is this ghastly grotesque. Like, it really does make him seem like, yeah, this is a big concern. This guy, we need to take care of him. Yeah. Whereas, like, if he was just like, sort him next week or something, just whatever, it doesn't matter. I think this is pretty much the end of my notes for this. I was just looking in the background though of seeing some of the decor We get like a crystal ball of some sort seems to be on the Wayne shelf. An old-looking kind of teapot of some sort, or a kettle behind Alfred. Eerily enough, behind Alfred, kind of appropriate, I guess.
In the very next frame, it's a little bit wider shot of the room, and across the room is I don't know what that is, a podium or something like that, with an open book, big open book. And I'd love to see, like, what are his interests? What is on that book that would have compelled him to turn to this page? I want my guests to read whatever the hell is on this page of this book. Because, you don't really know what this guy's into. And so...
It reminded me... I think I got a note next to that. It's just like Book of Shadows from Charmed. Like, that's just what it looked like to me.
Wow.
It was like a very old reference there. I know they've got a Charmed reboot going on, but I've not watched any of it, so I don't even know if they have the Book of Shadows in that.
Yeah. I forgot that was even... Is it out already?
Well, yeah, I think it's like near the end of the first season or something. But...
Oh my god. Oh no.
I mean, it's a Charmed's hardly sacred ground, really, isn't so.
Well, I mean, that's true. I did enjoy it, but at the same time, it's not classic to me or anything. It's fine.
See, I watched quite a bit of it. I did not enjoy it, but it was on. So it was back when before I had like Sky Television and stuff. So I was like, oh, I only got like 6 channels, so I guess I better watch this.
Nice. Yeah, that's the end of my notes as well, fellas. For this one.
Same here.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I'm good to go. If you guys are,
that's it for me.
Before we head off into the dark, dark night, Brady, would you like to tell our listeners maybe about any wonderful work you'd like to promote, or where they can get in touch with you?
As far as Movies by Minutes podcast are concerned, we had Jurassic Park Minute, Ghostbusters Minute, and Goonies Minute, all from way back when. They're all 3 over, but you can still find them on iTunes, etc. And I know I said earlier that I'm kind of out of the game or whatever, but... my brother / co-host from Jurassic Park Minute and Ghostbusters Minute actually has plans for something coming up with another host. So we're going to have some announcements on that hopefully pretty soon. So there is some more coming from Pele Media, but I don't want to steal their thunder and say what it is. So stay tuned.
Ooh. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I don't know. Genuinely. Listeners, I'm not faking it. I don't know.
I think that's the first time it's been publicly mentioned, actually. They haven't even said anything on... the Facebook group or anything. So, yeah, man.
To be honest, I did hear on your most recent those bonus episodes you're releasing that were the Patreons.
Yeah.
I think there was mention of something coming soon, but it didn't say what it was. It just
that was
said,
a while ago.
There might be something.
Yeah, that was a while ago. I don't remember. I'm sure it was Kyle. I'm just gonna blame everything on Kyle. So.
But yes, I'm excited, and hopefully all of you are. And if you'd like to get in touch with us in the meantime, I'm sure you bloody know where we are by now. Come on, what have you been doing all this time? We're on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave. We're on Twitter at Bat Minute. We're at Bat Minute everywhere. Just put Bat Minute in. We'll probably come up. Whatever. And send us a message. We always like getting messages. We like chatting. And join us again on Wednesday, because we'll be back with Minute 89 of Bat Minute Returns.
Next time. Hallowed be thy Wayne. Our moody multimillionaire minds his many manner and prepares to throw a spanner in the works. But while the feathered Feuer continues to spout things pompous and crass, which transport will Bruce use to get medieval on his ass? Find out Wednesday, same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.